And welcome to the Midday Show. I'm Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. Fun topics today. Fun Friday. Are we just going to call it Fun Friday?
Fun. Well, so far.
So far, we'll call it Fun Friday. We have an interesting story about some treasure hunters from Pennsylvania and their battle with the FBI. We are going to go back and forth. I can already tell there's going to be some serious debates with the man fakes death to avoid marriage conversation. That is an incredible story that we're going to share with you and dive into. And then I put a storm is coming on the end. Maybe we'll talk about the weather at the end, some things coming forward. It looks like a lot of us are going to be bundled up and tucked away Sunday into Monday. So we'll see how that plays out. Before we get to all of that, the reason it's Fun Friday, I was worried for a second. I thought maybe you were flustered, but now you've got the color back in your skin. You look lively. How are you feeling today?
I am good. I am
good.
I am ready for a football Sunday.
There you go.
That has Eagles at 1, Cowboys at 4, and Steelers at 8. And how about Roethlisberger coming out and saying we don't really have a chance, so we should just have fun? That is awesome.
Can we talk about that for a second? It's either I couldn't tell because it's one or the other. I could not tell. Is he being facetious and just kind of like, I'm old enough to the point in my life where this is a football game and I'm not going to make it anything more than that? Because once you're 40, you begin to realize like you're playing a game. Like, yes, you're getting paid millions of dollars, but it is a game nonetheless. Or is this like some psychological take the tension off for his teammates? We're not going to make this a big deal and like just kind of lightening the load to actually benefit his team because he actually thinks they might be able to pull it off. I couldn't tell which one it was.
It's hard to tell because they just played him a couple weeks ago and got smoked. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that what are they, 10-point underdogs? I mean, I'm sure Vegas is giving them no chance. So, why not? You just come out and say, hey, listen, we're not. And I've said it in locker rooms, nobody thinks we can win tonight. I've said it multiple times this year. The other team got off the bus and thinks we stink. And so, you know what, like you use to whatever you can to your advantage. And,
sure.
Just to come out and say, hey, listen, there is no pressure. This is, and I think in the Steelers world, and I know they're professionals and I know they're all, I think this is, they got Ben his send-off. They got him to the playoffs. He, quote unquote, led them to the playoffs again. He gets one more moment in the sun. It's not in Pittsburgh, but it's a primetime game. Like, I don't want to say this is gravy because this Steeler team is not very good. Defensively, they've got some players. Obviously, Watt is, but offensively, this team is punchless. And
what?
I think it is. They feel to me like the Patriot League team that wins their conference tournament and makes the NCAA. Like everything beyond this is gravy. And that's the way I feel that the Steelers look at it.
That's a fair way to look at it. I just think the most underrated thing about Pittsburgh is just stability and Mike Tomlin. And those are the things right now. Everyone's talking about Big Ben and everyone's talking about how they squeaked in and the defense. And no. Stability and Mike Tomlin. Stability and Mike Tomlin. That's really what this year is and kind of like the proof in the pudding for Pittsburgh this year. That's all it is.
And and Kansas City got on a great roll here later. But they had struggled at times. They didn't struggle against the Steelers, which is obviously something that but listen, I said this to my son the other day. My son's like, Alabama's going to kill Georgia. I was like, yeah, hold on a second. It's like teams can adjust. They've got film to watch now, and they've got, obviously Kansas City's making no adjustments because why would you make any adjustments? Because you just crushed them. So if the Steelers adjust well, if this game goes into halftime and it's a 4-point game, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah. Good luck to Pittsburgh. Good luck to Philadelphia. I will let you decide because I enjoyed both of these stories. Do you want to go with Pennsylvania? Do you want to go with the Pennsylvania Treasure Hunters, or would you prefer to start off with the man who faked his own death to avoid marriage?
Let's go with the Treasure Hunters because this is really there's some teeth to this story. So there's this legend that Civil War era. They robbed the Philadelphia Mint, and they took, I assume, gold, and they just took a bunch of it, and that it was buried somewhere in Pennsylvania. And this father and son duo, we'll call them Jeff and Jeff Everett Jr. Are you a junior?
I'm not a junior. My middle name is James, and his is Lynn. So we are not juniors.
All right. Well, anyway, father and son, and they go find this with like metal detectors and whatever. They think they've got it somewhere out Western PA, somewhere out near Pittsburgh. And isn't it funny how to us everything Western PA is near Pittsburgh? It's just like
right.
That's just the way it is.
So real quick, because I want you to keep going. So what it was, they had spent years looking for what, according to legend, is the 1863 shipment of Union gold that was lost or stolen while on its way to the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia. So go ahead, please continue.
Okay. So they think they find it. And they with metal detectors or whatever, they think they got it, that it's down there. So they call the FBI. And then kind of that was their big mistake, because then the FBI brought in somebody, and according to the father-son, said that whatever's down there was like 9 tons or something. Is that what I read? It was heavy.
Yep. So to help build your story, they had met with the FBI in 2018. The FBI brought in a contractor with sophisticated instruments. That contractor detected an underground mass that weighed up to 9 tons, and it had the exact density of gold. So I'm not a professional. I don't know how they figure out that it has the exact density of gold, but essentially whatever the size of 9 tons of gold would have to be, this equaled that size.
So then the FBI comes out, and they and they're going to come excavate it. And this father and son come along because they want to. Well, they're forced to stay in their car, and they're not allowed to the excavation site. And basically, they have been crapped on by the FBI ever since. They're filing right to knows. The FBI is saying we're moving as fast as we can. Like how hard is this? What was down there? Like this isn't a 3-month answer. It shouldn't take paperwork. It shouldn't take there should be scads of pictures. There should be, but this father and son who found it have been totally dumped upon, and now they're suing the FBI, which of course they'll lose because they're the FBI. And with all these things of government, like this is I don't even know if I would say this is corrupt. It's just unfair. And this is why people hate the government.
Yeah, so you're exactly right. You listen, you nailed that story. I give you crap sometimes for being old and memory. You nailed that story. So they were confined to their car while the FBI did a dig. The FBI said that there was nothing there. So here's the claims, and this is kind of like the official statement. The FBI is claiming it had no files about the investigation. After the Justice Department ordered a more thorough review, the FBI said its records were exempt from public disclosure. So the FBI, in 2 different statements, in less than a year, went from we have no documents about this to the documents are not public records. So they initially lied about not having any of the documents. And then when the Justice Department stepped in, said, well, they are, but they're not available to the public. Finally, in the wake of the treasure hunter's appeal, the FBI said it had located 2,400 pages of records and 17 video files that it could potentially turn over, but that it would take years to do so. So to me, this is a no-brainer. The FBI found something, gold, whatever you want to say it was, but the FBI very clearly is lying, and they certainly found something.
So it took 2,400 pages and 17 videos when you find nothing.
Nothing. Yes, exactly.
I mean, come on. So, and this is I guess this is where we are as a society. Now they're clearly lying. And I understand that there are times that the government lies to us because it's in our best interest.
our benefit in our own for
I
our
guess.
own good. Sure.
Whether there's a pile of gold that these guys found or didn't find, I don't know how that has to do with public security.
Well, see,
Like to
so
you and
now,
I, like we're rooting for these guys.
yes. So this is the part where it gets, I don't want to say tricky or fishy. First of all, the moment they were told they had to stay in the car, that should have been the first red flag. Second of all, now the question comes into play, did they in fact find gold or not? Because if they found gold, to your point, like it is what it is, everything else. But what if it wasn't gold? If they found something else, something more valuable, something more important, I know it sounds, what could possibly be more valuable than 9 tons of gold? I will say this to you, though. We are now a fiat currency. Our currency is not based off of gold. I know people still have this idea of like the gold standard, but technically that's not truly in existence anymore. It's not as valuable or as concrete as it used to be. So there is this idea of maybe they found something that's more damning than 9 tons of gold. Who knows? But that would be my next question: is maybe it's not gold.
That is a fair point. This is why Nicolas Cage did not work with the government. He worked against the government to try to find the treasure.
It's a very, very fair point. So right now, CBS News reached out. I want to just give them credit. WTAG TV. They reached out to the Elk County Historical Society. They are, I don't know if they've been paid off or if they honestly believe this. They are saying that they believe the gold is an old wives' tale. A member of the society said there's no actual historical evidence that the gold was or is buried in the area. I would argue there's 2,400 pages and 17 video files that say it was
a 9-ton sonogram.
Yeah, I would argue there's a lot of proof that it was buried there.
I picture some guy sitting in the back seat of a car yelling, "This is," while they're rolling the window up so they can't hear him anymore. As they go and dig, and he's like, "This is crap." And I'm hoping the word he used wasn't crap.
What the story doesn't say is if they were told. I'm curious if they were told they would have to wait in the car before they went. I wondered if that was an agreed upon thing, or if they showed up and then the FBI was like, "Hey, this is as far as you can go. You have to stay here." That would be another. That would be another interesting story.
I'd love to have an are they just afraid people are going to go around digging things up? Like I
possibly.
I would love to have an off the record, honest conversation with an FBI person. Say, like, why didn't you just, like, why couldn't they watch? Why couldn't they? Were you afraid they were going to claim it all? And if they did claim it all, like, shouldn't they get to claim it all?
Yeah, like, I would assume. I would think so. Then it comes down to like historical artifact. There's a whole gray area there, right? Of being part of the culture, society, and then do they get to keep it because it's part of their culture? So there's a whole side to that. This is the last thing that I want to say about this before we move on. There's a whole father-son dynamic here that I mentioned to you yesterday. Their company is called. Do you remember what their company's called?
I do not.
They are literally treasure hunters, the father and the son, and their company is called Finders Keepers, which is great. That is fantastic. They have logos, they have shirts. It's a full-out company. I cannot imagine just getting together with your father, or imagine reaching out, imagine calling Jimmy right now and just being like, "We're going into business. We are treasure hunters. This is what we're doing." And that's essentially what from the looks of it, that's what this father and son does under Finders Keepers.
I'm picturing Buford T. Justice in Junior.
That is fantastic. That would be a great interview, is to interview the father and son and just how do you become treasure hunters, who came up with the name, and then just dive into the story a little bit, because I find them fascinating as a duo. I think that's a story in itself.
And I am in full favor of Finders Keepers. They're getting screwed badly.
Yes. Oh, I after reading the story, I think that they are.
And before we let this go, I want to interview the TV station that says there's no real proof. Of course, there's no real proof that's why they're treasure hunters. If there was real proof that the treasure was down there, they'd have found it a long time ago. So I want to interview these people, like, as to your point, there's no evidence. There's 2,400 pages of evidence.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
how do you release that story with a straight face?
Do you think, honest to God, and you have written a novel, you've written scripts. I don't know if I could write 2,400 pages on anything. 2,400 pages.
That's
It's
a lot
hard
of
to write.
freaking pages, dude.
It's hard to write 2,400 pages on. Think of the most broad topic you can think of, and the idea that they wrote 2,400 pages on finding nothing, it doesn't make any sense.
Dude, when you were thinking about that, like it's a long process, and I was like, with scanning and that, and I'm not sure it's that long. I'm in the middle of a real estate deal with a relocation company, and there's a rider that goes along with the contract that was 75 pages, and it seemed endless, and it was 75 pages. 2,400 pages is, and 17 videos.
Yeah.
17 videos. I mean, if you made TikTok videos, 17 of them are a lot. I'm guessing these videos are longer than 30 seconds.
Yeah. I'm curious to see where it goes. Maybe we'll reach out.
It's an empty hole. Let's get it from the other side. Let's get it in the moonlight. Like, how many different angles can you film emptiness? Apparently 17.
All right. Somehow that might be the second best story we have today. Because this one was cracking me up before the show. So, rather than break up with his girlfriend of 2 years, a college graduate decided it would be easier to fake his own death. Do you mind if I read through kind of the first couple of paragraphs so we just have the basis of the story?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so man fakes his own death to get out of marriage. This takes It's Not You, It's Me to a whole nother level. Rather than break up with his girlfriend of 2 years, a Connecticut man and college graduate decided it would be easier to fake his own death. Tucker had gotten engaged to his girlfriend Alex last year, shortly before she moved back to her native Britain. The pair had met as students at the University of Connecticut, where Alex was studying abroad. In the years since the proposal, Alex spent thousands of pounds planning the wedding and paying for his plane ticket to England for the ceremony. All the while, Tucker was secretly overwhelmed by his impending nuptials and the stress of a long-distance relationship. Rather than break things off, he did the next obvious thing, which I disagree with that. He concocted an elaborate plot to make him think his fiancée was dead. I find this absolutely. First of all, the idea that anybody thinks that that's the next logical step.
I was going to say,
fascinating.
I can either break up with her or I can pretend I died. There's no in between.
That's pretty fascinating to me. So here's how we did it, and then you and I can dive
let's
into
make a
it.
list. What are some other options? I mean, how about listen, I'm gay. Wouldn't that be a less of a stretch than I'm dead?
Yeah, or I'm sick with COVID. I mean, there's a lot of ways to push off a wedding. You don't even have to cancel it. You can delay, right? Isn't that an option?
I've decided to join the priesthood.
Yeah, right. No, that's a good one. I hadn't thought of that. What about running away and joining the circus? Is that a fair one?
I don't think there are circuses anymore, but maybe he thought she would dig the circus, and that scared him. I don't know.
Yes. So it gets even better. So here was his plan and how he was going to get out of it. Essentially, what he ended up doing, he pretended to be his own father. He called and left a message saying that her fiance had jumped in front of a car and would be unable to marry her because, of course, he was dead. Unfortunately, what Tucker didn't do while he was pretending to be his dad is he had neglected to include his parents in on the scheme. So when Alex then called back to offer her condolences, the father was like, "We don't know what you're talking about. Your fiance is alive and well in Connecticut." And it gets even better. The mom and dad didn't even know that they were engaged. So mom and dad had to not only explain to the fiance that their son was still alive, they also had to explain to her that they had no idea what she was actually talking about.
He's not dead. He's down in the living room.
Yes.
Can you imagine? So here you are. How proud are you as parents at this moment? First of all, you have a son that's engaged that didn't bother to tell you. So that hurts. That sure. As a parent, that would hurt. Secondly, he was cowardly enough that he wanted to break off the relationship and didn't have the stones to do it. And then thirdly, he came up with the dumbest plan in history that was like, do you think they're not going to call and say, like, we're sorry? Do you think there's going to be no offers? They're just going to be like, oh, hey, guess what? He's dead. Okay, what are we doing for dinner? Like,
Yes.
they're hurt, then they're disappointed, and then they realize, oh my God, our son's an idiot, all in one fell swoop.
All in one thing. Here's what I would say, and I do not condone what Tucker did. However, I remember we used to do this when we first started the show.
Yeah,
I've never faked my own death to get out of marriage. But if I was going to fake my own death to get out of marriage, here's where Tucker failed. He needed an accomplice. If this were a movie or a TV show, where's the best friend? Where's the little brother or the older brother? Where's the accomplice that you make the phone call from? So now when she calls back, it goes to your friend's phone and they can cover for you. He failed to get an accomplice in all of this. He needed the extra body and he didn't have it.
Just does he really think though was he going to go social media dark forever? Was she never going to find out?
It's a good question. Deborah says, oh my gosh, most men get into a place where it is warm and wonderful and lose their minds, right? The honeymoon stage, essentially. He obviously was mesmerizing when he decided to propose. Take a deep breath and say thanks, but no thanks. Save the woman the grief in time of a relationship. Trust me, we will survive and get over it. We might hate you for eternity, but hey, done. That's a fair way of putting it. I mean, this is what I think you were getting to. You're already lying. You're lying to your parents. You're lying to the fiance. The hoops and the things you're going through, they cannot be easier or less stressful than what would actually happen telling the person you don't want to marry them, right?
It is one of those things in life where we are so afraid of it. It just like the truth is usually not nearly as bad as we make it out to be. As we dread. It's just like those things when you have that chore that you want, like I got to clean the shed out and I don't want to do it. And you put it off and put it off, put it off. You finally do it. And it only takes you like 20 minutes. And you're like, that wasn't as bad as I thought. And so many times in life, just dealing with it the way you're supposed to deal with it is not nearly as bad as you thought. And here's my angle on the story. How does this become newsworthy? Not newsworthy. How does the news get a hold of this story?
Oh, that's easy. That one's easy because someone got listen, if you're the girl, I'm telling everybody.
You are?
Oh my gosh, yes. You're not?
Aren't you embarrassed? Like you were gonna marry this schmuck?
Oh,
you were in love with this moron.
Oh no, I'm making sure everyone else knows he's a schmuck. You don't think that's the case?
But doesn't that make you look bad?
I don't know. If I'm the girl, I think what he's done is so bad. How could you possibly look bad? If I'm the girl,
because you were in love with the idiot.
Yeah, but that's everyone. Listen, love is blind. We've like honeymoon stage. Everybody's been in the first 3 or 6 months of a relationship where they look back and they're like, what was I thinking? And the answer is you weren't. And that's okay. Everyone can relate to that. If I'm this girl, if I'm this girl, this story is on a platter and I'm calling every news station and I'm like, his name is Tucker. That's Tucker. That's an easy answer.
No way.
You don't think so?
If you took all your money, okay, and you blew it on Swedish fish, like, and your girlfriend, like, if she tells everyone, this is what my guy, she now looks like an idiot because she spent 3 years dating the guy who blew his fortune on Swedish fish.
But that's a horrible analogy. It's a horrible analogy.
It is a bad reflection on her and her choices of men. This chick does not come out of this looking good. And the other aspect is, my first thought is, how unbearable was this girl that this guy decided to fake his death? I'm thinking this chick's a pain in the ass.
It's unbelievable to me. First of all, the idea that you would think she would be embarrassed. she's not thinking about embarrassment. She's thinking, how did I waste this much time on this person, and how do I move on from this? And I don't give a damn about him anymore. And she even says in the story, if you read it, she still took her trip because it was already planned for her to come back to the States. She still took her trip back to the States. And then the thing, she's like, I'm here for me and I'm going to have a good time. Like, I'm not worried about it.
And
so she still came back.
Good with that. You can't.
Your analogy was horrible, by the way. That was one of the worst. Your analogy, that was one of the worst analogies you have ever given on this show.
I disagree. It is a reflection on her. It is Bill Cosby's wife. She looks bad. Jerry Sandusky's wife looks bad. Like, you are it on any spouse. If your spouse that like. This is the guy you thought. I mean, as we went through, the guy obviously was he never told his parents he was engaged. He thought the best way out of this was to fake his death, and he was so stupid that he didn't think it would backfire. He didn't see any holes in this plan at all. Yet she was so madly in love with this idiot, it makes her look bad that this is the guy she chose.
I just don't think she looks that bad given the circumstances.
She does. You're wrong.
But that's fine. This is the other part that you said too. You're comparing him to two of the most condemned people on.
Well, they're just newsworthy.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is you're comparing like a 20-something-year-old kid, a kid essentially, because anybody who makes this choice is a kid. You're comparing that kid to Cosby and Sandusky. Like, it's just not comparable. The embarrassment level of Sandusky and Cosby's wife to this girl, they're not even comparable.
No, I get that. But it is like, I'm trying to think of a.
I think that's the problem.
Okay, so let's say this. So you're a chick and you're engaged to this guy who is a video game. He's a gamer, and that's what he loves to do. And it comes the day of the wedding, and he was like, I'd rather sit in my basement and play video games than come to the wedding.
Okay.
That's who you picked. This is not when she comes out and says he's such a loser. There's a portion of society that's saying, and you picked him. So, like, this doesn't reflect well on her. It just doesn't. I want to interview her.
Okay. I think picking is hard. I think the majority of us have at some point dated or had a fling or had a moment of weakness where we look back and we're like, why were we with that person? I know there's people out there in the world right now. I'm saying this and they're like, here's a mirror. Like,
exactly. They're saying it about you.
Yes, exactly.
Listen, I was just going to say, I'm picturing the Meatloaf song that, like, until the end, I'm praying for the end of time. I'll love you. Will you love me forever? Let me sleep on it. Will you love me forever? And I couldn't take it any longer. And, Lord, I was crazy. And the feeling came up on me like a tidal wave. So I'm guessing he's thinking we're at college. She wants to hear me say I love her, so I'll say I love her. She's going back to England. She wants to get engaged. I'll say, yeah, whatever. Let's get engaged. And, there's also a level of she's buying his plane ticket.
Jeff's probably correct here. And as you know, we always share comments where Jeff is right. Jeff's probably correct here. The girl is going to badmouth him everywhere she can. I agree with that. He's the one doing the stupid stuff. It's not the girl's fault that she fell in love with a liar. Interesting. There you go. This is interesting. I'm surprised. I'm not surprised we disagree. I'm surprised that that's the side you ended up on, especially because you have two daughters. I'm just surprised that that's kind of where.
But this is where it comes to, like, because this all goes back to why is she blabbing it? Like, the guy is an idiot. As you said, we have all dated idiots, and there are lots of people who will claim that we were the idiot that they dated.
Absolutely.
And I'm not. There's no. But if she thinks spilling this dirt, telling this story makes him look bad, which it does, makes her look good. It does not. It does not make her look good.
I don't think it agreed. I don't think it makes her look good. But the idea that there's damage onto her, I just don't see it. I disagree.
Can't be the only person in the world who's saying how unbearable was this girl that he decided to fake his death.
It's a very fair point that I'm not taking into consideration. We will agree to disagree on this one. Anything before you have to go?
The odds of me faking my death this weekend are slim. So if you hear anything otherwise, it is probably not true. No, I'm just pumped. I mean, I'm pumped for football. I am. Yeah. I'm bracing for the weather. Since Monday's a holiday anyway, and schools are off and banks are closed, and it's kind of a good time. I think society is going to hunker down for a 3-day weekend, and with COVID and with snow, even people who were supposed to show up for work Monday, it seems like it might not happen. I know it's still a little ways off, and nobody really knows how close to the ocean it's going to stay or how not, but it's looking like we could get a bunch.
Yep, I agree. So we'll have to bundle up. We'll try to stay warm. Thank you to Weiss Markets for being our title sponsor, and be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news.
That's it. We did good.
That's it. Nothing.
Today was Fun Friday. I had fun today.
That was good. I'm glad I could cheer you up a little bit. That was good. All right. I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina. Enjoy your weekend, and we will see you guys on Monday.
By the way, I found both those stories, so I don't know how Jeff's cheering me up with those stories. I brought them. I brought the joy today. I brought it.
Yeah. Congrats on pulling your